Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Hello, and this is episode 60, believe it or not, of Starship Vigilant. Big 60. So today's date is yay! Today's date is the 6th of September 2023. And as I say, today is episode 60 of our ongoing campaign with Star Trek Adventures, although confusingly we're not using Star Trek Adventures at the moment, but things will become clear as we go on. So joining us tonight we have got Mike, who is playing Cmdr Rafael Huerta.
To keep on
Chief of Security.
Right, I'll joke.
We have Sarah Jane, who is playing Commander Waldemar Reiter, who is First Officer and Helmsman.
Ja, das ist richtig.
Oh, we're doing accents. Brilliant.
that was a whole language.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done. But yeah, I'd give you XP for that if we had such a thing. And finally, but last but not least, we have got Alex, who's playing Lt Cmdr Kamal Jitan.
Hello.
So we are not joined by our full complement tonight. So we're not joined by Kerrin and Kevin, but we will press on regardless. And I don't know why I'm talking like I'm on the radio or something, but you know, it all comes out in the edit. It's all fine. So as I say, episode 60. So currently, you are playing the command crew of the USS Lexington. So the year is 2269. The USS Lexington is a Constitution class starship, the same class as the USS Enterprise from the original series. And you are playing the command crew. Now, last time, if you recall, you had finished up your investigation of the planet called Bacchus, where you had encountered the first traces of what we as the players and referee of our ongoing campaign know is the first traces of the technology belonging to the Tilical. The Tilical being a very ancient species whose influence has been located throughout the reaches of the Shackleton Expanse in particular. However, at the time period in which in which we are playing at the moment, this is not commonly known, and again, you have encountered this technology and managed to free both your own ship and also a Klingon vessel from the influence of the technology on this planet. And if you recall, as you had escaped, and in fact, as I recall, you'd actually transferred the Klingons on board the Lexington because their ship was basically destroyed by a warp core breach. And you had met with an Admiral Banner Stoker, or Stoker, I should say, Admiral Banner Stoker, and she was on board her own ship, the USS Astrad, and you rendezvoused with her vessel, and she ordered you to give a full report of what you'd encountered on Bacchus, and she'd essentially had you hand over all materials, sensor logs.
In relation to the Project Genesis.
Exactly, yeah. Genesis? It's planet forbidden. And she'd ordered you to turn over all of your materials and give a full report. And after some negotiating between yourselves and she'd also agreed to have the Klingons transferred, I think it was to Starbase 11, to the nearest starbase, where they could get onward transfer to the Klingon Empire. And I remember that Captain Moore had been particularly interested in following up on the fate of the Klingons because her actions and her kind of desire for secrecy were such that you weren't entirely convinced that she wasn't just going to chuck them all out of an airlock as soon as you were out of sensor range. And subsequent to those discussions happening, she had then the USS Astra had then warped away, and you had been essentially ordered back to your routine patrol duty. So does that seem to fit in with what everyone remembers from last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything anybody would like to add to that? Just to is there anything you think we may have missed, or is there anything you'd like to clarify?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Good.
I don't think so.
Good stuff. We'll take. Okay, excellent stuff. Brilliant. So what's happened is the Lexington again has returned. You've sort of made repairs. So the Lexington had undergone repairs, and about a week passed. So you'd essentially repaired the damage that you'd suffered, most of which was superficial-ish. Commander Varette, who is your chief engineer, played by Kevin, spent much of the last week complaining about the added effort him and his team have had to put in. But to be fair, most of the damage that you suffered was relatively superficial, and as such, Lexington has been ordered to return to normal duties. However, so it's been about a week, and you suddenly receive a summons from the captain to report to her quarters. In these days, captains didn't, as far as I know, didn't really have ready rooms as such, or at least we never saw one. But you basically receive an invitation. All of you receive an invitation from the captain to visit her in her quarters at approximately 2000 hours ship time. So once you've all finished your duties for the day, because you're as the sort of main officers of the ship, you all kind of work the kind of the day shift basically. So once you've all eaten and refreshed yourselves, you all report at the appointed time. I'm assuming, unless anyone has a reason or anything else they'd like to do in the meantime.
No, not really.
Cool. Okay, so one by one, you sort of turn up at the captain's door, and she admits you. And after a few minutes, all of the senior officers are kind of gathered awkwardly in her quarters. She's handed round a sort of a beverage of your choice from the food synthesizer. If any of you want anything, but most of you are kind of a little bit uncomfortable, because this is not common behaviour for Captain Moore. I mean, she's not Captain Pike. As we know in Strange New Worlds, all they seem to do is spend their time hanging out in his absolutely massive quarters that he has.
The reason he's got such a massive quarters is because that's Captain's quarters on USS Enterprise. The Kurt's quarters are nothing but a set on a Federation holo show.
There you go. Is that what it is? Okay, now I understand.
It's the Star Trek that we're familiar with is Starfleet propaganda.
Okay, so you watch this on YouTube.
No, it's my own entirely mad theory that I've come up with. Basically, just to widen the fanboys up.
Good. So basically, the Enterprise or the Lexington of our series looks more like the Enterprise of the original TV show. So again, captain's quarters are relatively spacious, but you're all kind of hanging. She hasn't explained to any of you why she's invited you here, at least not initially. And she's friendly enough. There's no there doesn't seem to be a problem as such. She sort of welcomes you in, offers you a drink, but she seems reluctant to talk until you're all there. So once you've all assembled, she kind of gestures to you to take seats, and there's a couple of chairs, and one of you can perch on the bed if you feel the need. And she says, "Oh well, thank you all for coming. I know you're off duty, but I wanted to have an informal chat just before I notify the crew of our new orders. So I have received a communication from Admiral Stoker. You remember that we met her a week or so ago, following our investigations on Buckus, and she sent me a message and has had us on the Lexington. We have been essentially detached from regular duty, and we are to assist her task force in following up on the phenomena that we encountered in the Bacchus system. She assures me that this is a highly confidential investigation, and as such, I've decided to not have a briefing in the normal manner and make this known until I've had a chance to inform you all of our orders. She has ordered us initially. So initially, we have been instructed to proceed to the Madrigal system. Unfortunately, and she looks at Commander Verrett, unfortunately, this means we will be reversing course as the Madrigal system is in close proximity to Bacchus. So we're essentially going to be backtracking for a couple of days. However, Admiral Stoker has advised me in the strongest possible terms that these investigations into what we or expanding our knowledge of what we encountered is vital to the security of the Federation, both now and in the future. So our orders are to depart for the Madrigal system as soon as is practical, and I'll be issuing those orders once we've concluded this meeting. And we are to carry out scans of that system. I've not been made aware of anything in particular that we are investigating. We have just been advised that the Lexington and other ships have been detached from normal duty to carry out this type of investigation. We're trying to understand the effects of the events we experienced in the Bacchus system to see whether there has been any impact on neighboring systems, and to simply carry out detailed scans and then report back to Admiral Stoker. Does anybody have anything they wish to ask? And I will do the best I can to answer you within the restrictions of what I'm allowed, what my orders allow.
I don't have a question, but I just want to make a point. These orders have come from Admiral Stoker, yeah?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Requisitioning basically a Federation, a Constitution class. I mean, our schedule's very hectic anyway. It just seems a bit odd that a ship this size has been, all away from our other duties.
I expressed similar concerns to the Admiral. Certainly, this seems to be an unorthodox means of carrying out such investigations. Yeah. There are science vessels which are dedicated to this kind of work, which, as we all know, most of us have served on them at one point or other in our career. And as you say, the Lexington is one of a small number of highly visible assets that Starfleet has at their disposal. However, Admiral Stoker is legitimate in her, line of in the chain of command, and at this point, I have no reason to question her orders. I think we can all agree that everything that we encountered in Bacchus certainly represents a level of technology that we've never encountered before, and could conceivably represent a threat to Federation security. And again, at this point, I don't have any grounds to appeal against these orders. However, as you rightly say, I also have made a note in my log of the unorthodox nature of this situation, and I will be continuing to monitor it closely, and to ensure that we are not asked to carry out duties outside of our remit. However, for now, I intend to follow these orders as they appear to be legitimate. We're not being asked to undertake any sort of hostile action, or this is simply an investigation mission. And as noted in the orders from Admiral Stoker, to the best of my knowledge, other vessels are also being dispatched to neighbouring systems to carry out similar investigations. So it may simply be a matter of availability. It's certainly possible, but again, we are subject to some communication restrictions. I'm going to also issue orders to the communications officer that there is to be an embargo on any outgoing personal transmissions for the next 72 hours, at least until the nature of our investigations becomes clearer. The Admiral was quite clear in her specification that we were not to advertise, what we were doing. That we are to report. I'm reporting directly to her, and in the absence of a priority 1 alert, then this mission takes precedence for now. So just to sort of out of character, basically. Obviously, a starship, has a crew, and quite often the crew will send messages. There's no reason why people can't send subspace messages home to family and so on. So what the captain's telling you is that basically she's put a stop to that at least for the next 3 days until she knows has a bit of a clearer picture. And priority 1 is like a system, like a massive emergency. So obviously, priority 1 alert would override any other considerations, but I think that sort of covers it. So everyone clear on that? So okay, so she she kind of relaxes a little bit, and obviously there's a presumably you will all talk amongst each other and wondering what it means. Again, it all seems a little bit unusual. And so Mike, also she sort of speaks to each of you in turn individually.
Yeah.
Although you're all having you're all sort of milling about and chatting. She sort of wanders between you, and she you get the impression that she's also having an individual discussion with each of you. And so she speaks to you, and she sort of pulls you to one side slightly, and she says, "Commander, I want you to make sure that we keep an eye on internal security."
Okay.
I have no reason to doubt or no reason to suspect any internal issues. However, it might be an idea to perhaps have your security teams play out some intruder alert drills, possibly. Again, I don't really know what we are going to encounter.
So you
you
just want me to run some drills?
Yeah, just some readiness drills, really, just to make sure that I just want us to make sure that we're on the top of our game. I have no reason to suspect we're being sent into any immediate danger, but it would be, I think it would be prudent for us to be as prepared as possible.
I sort of look at her and with a gleam in my eye and rub my hands together and say, "Excellent! I can get a chance to bring the crew up that 2% that I've wanted."
I had a feeling you'd be pleased. Very well. Carry on, Commander. Feel free. Yeah, feel free to, as I say, feel free to stay as long as you like. But then, and then, as I say, she then sort of wanders off and goes and has a chat with Commander Jitan. So, Commander Reiter, you get the feeling that she's leaving you till last, basically. So she goes and has a word with. So you see that she goes and has a word with Commander Jitan. So she says, "Doctor, I hope you're still settling in well. I'm sorry that we haven't had as much time, perhaps, to get acquainted as I might have liked. But obviously, I'm not sure how this current mission is going to impact your department. I'm not expecting us to be encountering any sort of hostile force or be generating casualties, hopefully. However, I would also ask you just to make sure that your people are prepared for any eventuality." And then she goes and then she sort of drifts out, has a word with the chief engineer, and all of you can sort of see him kind of looking annoyed, but again, he's not best pleased about the fact that after having just repaired the engines, he's now going to have to he's now having to push the ship to head back the same direction you've just come, and he kind of stalks off out of the quarters.
As he stalks out the door, you hear over the fingers, alert, alert, all hands, intruders alert, all security guards to security stations.
Oh, so the captain sort of looks up sharply, but then looks at you, and you presumably putting your communicator away or something, are you? So you've kind of, you're obviously very keen. So she says, "Well, I suspect you should probably go and take care of that, Commander.
Understood.
You're dismissed."
Captain. I'll turn and wander, saunter out through the door.
The door opens and you hear like a going off in the corridor. So finally, Captain Moore comes up to you, Commander Reiter, and she says, "Well, Waldemar, what do you make of all of this?"
Mystified. I thought that we were leaving that all behind us and not allowed to talk about it anymore. So, I've no idea what's going on.
I agree. I'm concerned. However, as I said to the others, and I didn't wish to voice this concern in front of the rest of them. However, I have my concerns about the legitimacy of Admiral Stoker's orders. I've agreed to follow them for now, as I have no reason to. I have no legitimate reason to question them. However, just so you are aware, and I will be entering a note in my log to devolve you of responsibility for this. However, I have sent a coded subspace inquiry via some back channels to some of my old colleagues at Starfleet Command. I've asked them to investigate the veracity of this. Obviously, I don't wish to make it a formal objection, because that would put us under potential for reprimand, and certainly, although I'm willing to take that responsibility, I also have a responsibility to the ship and the crew. So, however, unofficially, and as I say, I've noted in the record that this was done without your knowledge or collusion. However, I have made those inquiries. However, given our position, it will certainly take some time for me to have for that message to even reach Starfleet, and so it's likely going to be 10 days or more before I get any sort of a response. So for now, I'm intending to go along with this and to carry out the investigations to the best of our ability. So all I would ask is that you keep an eye on, as you do so well, keep an eye on the crew, and let me know of any concerns. And other than that, I'm going to get changed and head for the bridge, and then I will make the course change, and I will make an announcement to the ship's company as well at the same time. Although I will keep the details vague. I don't intend to publish or to make known any more of our orders than is absolutely necessary.
Of course, it is extremely irregular. Do you know what you're going to tell the rest of the crew is the reason for our diversion?
Well, I'm going to tell the truth to some degree. I'm going to explain that we have been ordered to carry out some follow-up investigations of the Madrigal system following our last experiences. Obviously, the crew, to some extent, or at least are aware of what we found. However, I'm certainly not going to make it known the level of security that we're operating under, and the restrictions that Admiral Stoker has placed on us and our communications. If anyone queries the communications lockdown for now, we'll simply put it down to technical, to local system interference from the explosion that we witnessed. At least for the short term. As I say, I want to give us a day or two to get on top of this and see what we see, and then we'll proceed from there. And as I say, I'm making sure to record all of this in my log, so that if it does come to a formal inquiry or an investigation, then we have everything recorded. And I'd urge you to perhaps do the same, just for the sake of clarity, if it comes to that. But hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully we can investigate this system, see what we can find, and then we can be back to our normal duties. But I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of this from this Admiral Stoker. So anyhow, thanks as always for your counsel, and I'll let you get back to your duties, Commander.
Of course, and I will go off at the first opportunity and note down the details of the conversation in my log.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, perfect. So you get the impression from her that she's she's concerned, certainly, but again, one of the elements of this time period in the Star Trek setting is the distance between ship and base, and again, you're operating quite far out, so it would literally take days, if not weeks, for messages to go backwards and forwards, even at subspace speeds, which are I can't even remember how fast a subspace message is, but it's like warp. Is it like warp 10, Mike, or something? I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fast. But even then, it still takes time. So again, unfortunately, captains would be put in positions where they'd have to use their own judgment. So anyhow, she sort of breaks. If any of the rest of the officers are sort of lingering about, she sort of breaks it up, and about 10 minutes later, let's call it about 20 minutes later, as all of you are going about whatever you're doing. So security is still going through their security drill, and I guess Doctor may have just returned to quarters, possibly, given it's the ship night time.
Yeah, I went off back to quarters.
And about 20 minutes later, there's a attention all hands. This is the captain speaking. I'm just want to let you make you aware that we have received new orders from Starfleet Command. We are proceeding to the Madrigal system. We've been ordered to carry out further investigations into the phenomena that we encountered recently, in particular the effects that the events that we witnessed may have had on neighbouring star systems. So, science department, you are to report to your section chiefs at the earliest opportunity to have assignments given to you. All sensor crews will be on standby. Other than that, everyone carry on as normal, and I will make further announcements as necessary. More out. And moments later, you all feel the slight variation in the warp field that those of you who are experienced at Starship life realize that the ship has changed course. And sure enough, the Lexington then proceeds on course to the Madrigal star system at high speed. So, about let's say it's going to take let's say it takes 24 hours, pull a number out of thin air, so 24 hours later or so, the Lexington arrives in the Madrigal star system, and obviously all of you are going about your normal duties, and for those of you, the senior officers will probably arrange to be present on the bridge. Because that's your sort of common habit. You just, certainly for the Doctor, it's a sort of a Starfleet tradition that the Doctor seems to spend most of their time on the bridge when they're not actively doing work in sick bay. So you're kind of you're all kind of hanging out on the bridge. Obviously, those of you. So obviously, Reiter, you'll be on duty. Captain's in her place, and of course, and also Reiter, you'll obviously be piloting the ship because you're the chief helmsman as well. And Verrett is ensconced down in engineering. Scuttlebutt is that everyone's been told to keep out of engineering unless absolutely necessary because he's not in a good mood. And your security drills have been, Mike. Security drills have been going on for the last 24 hours, pretty much non-stop. And your security teams are tired but efficient.
Okay, well, I'll call it into the drills. At least give them a chance to rest. So
perfect.
Chamomile,
so the sorry, yeah. So at the appointed time, the Lexington drops out of warp in the Madrigal star system. So again, as discussed earlier, the Madrigal star system is kind of in close proximity to Buckus. I mean, close proximity means, you know, it's obviously still quite a distance away, but it's one of the nearer systems. As you arrive in the star system, and Captain Moore says, "Okay, Commander." Oh, do you know what? I can't even remember what the chief. Let me find that. I keep forgetting to make a note of the name of the chief science officer, because of course she was not somebody who's being actively played, so bear with me. It is T'Pren. Okay, so it's Lieutenant T'Pren. Right, so Lieutenant T'Pren is in her station at the bridge, so Captain turns to her in a chair and says, Lieutenant, please commence full sensor scans. She presses a button on her armrest, and all stations, announcement goes out. This is the bridge. We have arrived in the Madrigal star system. All sensor teams, please proceed with your scans and report to the science officer. And she also turns to you, Commander Reiter, and she says, anything on the tactical sensors. So what we'll do is we'll get you to make a little roll, I think, because that would be fun. So
that's how we play the game.
That's exactly how we play the game. So basically, what you're going to have to do is, I guess you're going to make a Starship Sensors roll. So your Starship Sensors is 24. Now,
okay.
The way the FASA game works, if you remember, we said it's a bit different to Star Trek Adventures. So you have the skills are percentages, and anything that you've got between 10 and 39 in a skill is what is qualified. So what that means is that you are absolutely proficient in that field. You are basically, you are very well trained, and so in normal day-to-day operations, you do not need to make that kind of a role. So I'm going to get you to make it only because if there is anything unusual, anything out of the ordinary, that'll let us know whether you pick it up. But generally speaking, you don't need to make a roll. You've got your sensor skill is high enough that you know what you're doing. So, but as I say, just for fun. So don't forget
the D100.
Yeah, D100, because don't forget this is percentile system. So just need to roll a D100, and we'll see how you get on.
Okay, can you see that?
I can't see anything actually. That's weird.
Maybe I'm in the wrong place.
No. Are you in roll? Did you do it in Discord or in roll 20?
Roll 20.
Oh, I can't see. Yeah, that's weird. Let me just try and refresh it. Hold on a minute. So yeah, my roll 20. I mean, roll 20 is a bit.
Piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, piece of the puzzle. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. And if you just go to the left out, where is the? Of course, the dice roll has moved, isn't it?
The dice roller is in the left hand side, but
bottom left. So it's on the bottom left. And let me just try and roll something.
Do you want me to roll again? I rolled a 24, but if you can't see it, then perhaps it doesn't.
Yeah, roll it. We'll roll it again just to see if I can see it, because I'm not seeing anything there. But I'll take that number. That's totally fine.
Now I've got a 58.
Okay, that's really weird. I cannot see.
Give me advantage.
Weird. So did you just see that?
Yes, you got 58 as well.
I didn't see anything.
Don't worry. I'm going to take the 24, which is your initial roll. So you okay? So that exactly matches your skill. You are using the ship's tactical sensors. So starships have different types of sensors. Obviously, the science department are using the more powerful sensors. You're using the tactical scanners, which are predominantly used during combat situations. But you scan the system, and there's no evidence of any other vessels in the system. However, what you do detect there is a slight blip on your scope, and at the same time, Lieutenant T'Pren sort of leans. She's looking at her panel, and then she sort of leans and looks into the old reader, the viewer that they have on the Constitution class. The kind of neck thing she's scanning. And she turns to you and says, "Captain, I'm picking up a gravimetric distortion at the fringe of the system. Unusual. This was not mapped when the Stellar 3 probe passed through this region 17 years ago. So this appears to be a recent development. I suggest we proceed to investigate with caution.
Can I say that I can't see any evidence of other ships in the area, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So may I suggest?
Hey, very good. I like that.
May I
That's brilliant.
suggest we proceed with caution?
Understood, Commander. Commander, signal yellow alert. I'm not taking any chances in this situation. So you flick a switch on your panel and the yellow alert starts to go off. So around the ship, crew members begin to go to their assigned stations. You're not quite at red alert yet, so this is just getting everybody on a sort of heightened alert state. The captain says, very well, Lieutenant Cmdr, feed the coordinates to Commander Reiter. Let's proceed cautiously. Take us in at 1/4 impulse power. Have all sensor stations focus their scans on that region. I want to make sure that I know what we're getting into. So everyone sort of acknowledges ISA, and the special effect shows the ship sort of bank away and start heading deeper into the solar system. And you proceed on for a short period of time. And as you approach, the science officer says, confirmed, I'm picking up a gravimetric anomaly, 4-7. Serious, but not something that our engines can't handle. However, I recommend we hold position at 500,000 kilometers until we make a closer investigation of the situation. And the captain concurs, and sure enough, so the ship comes to a halt, and she also then orders shields up, because yellow alert doesn't necessarily mean the shields go on. So she says, Commander, raise the deflector shields, and you can ISA, click a button, and the shields go up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on your let me just have a little look here. See, we'll have a little graphic maybe. Okay. Right. Okay, bear with me. Okay. Hopefully you can see your view just changing. You see that? So can you see the view screen on the
Yep, I can see that.
Not yet.
Okay. If you just if Roll20 hasn't updated, just refresh Roll20 and it should take you to the new page.
Okie dokie.
And then what you should see is a view of the view screen of the Constitution class with a bright object in the distance. Can everyone see that?
I have faith that I will shortly.
Mike, are you seeing it as well? Hello, Mike, are you there? Have we lost
I'm not
Mike?
sure if Roll20 is struggling a bit at the moment because I keep getting messages saying that my connection has been interrupted.
Okay.
Mine's fine. I can see it fine.
Yeah, I've got it. Mike's dropped off as well, though.
I can see the image.
Okay, Mike, are you still there on Discord? Okay. Well, I'm assuming he'll join us again when he can. He's definitely not on Roll20. Okay, so as you are, so you see this image, and obviously, as you can see, so in the distance, you can see this gravimetric anomaly. It's a bright, event going on, and as you look, then you actually then suddenly, Commander Reiter, you kind of notice your tactical screen suddenly pings, and you see this object that is parked some distance away from you, and you've basically increased the magnification on the view screen, and you can see this object kind of sitting, and it's clearly artificial. You can see it's metallic, and it's obviously you can see it reflecting the light from this object. But your tactical scans completely missed it until you've got to this point. where you are so close. And you kind of say, Captain, what the hell is that? And she sort of.
Can I tell how large it is?
You're running sensor scans, and the captain sort of says red alert, and she says red alert, and klaxons go off, and she sort of turns to Lieutenant Cmdr and says, Lieutenant, how the hell did we miss that, whatever that is? And she says, I'm unable to account for it, Captain. I'm redirecting sensors now. Object appears to be 3 meters in length, and it's obviously artificial. I would postulate it's a probe of some kind. It doesn't seem to have reacted to our presence, and your tactical scans, Sarah Jane, confirm. You're sort of looking at it on your tactical screens, and there's no evidence that it is paying any attention to you. It's not like there's no targeting beams or anything. It's essentially seems to be just sitting there, and it seems to be a spherical, spherical artificial object.
Can I ask, have we done any scans to see if there are maybe life forms inside of it?
That's a great question. You can certainly do that. I'll get Lieutenant Commander Reiter, you can have a go, and I'll also get Commander Cmdr to have a go, because again, you've got two different types of sensors basically. So the tactical sensors are a bit less finessed because they're designed for tracking targets, whereas obviously the ship's main sensors are pretty powerful. But just for fun, I'll make a roll for her if you want to make a roll for you.
Yep.
There you go. So you rolled 59. She rolled a 2. Okay, well that's pretty good. So your tactical scans, as expected, don't really tell you anything other than you concur with her measurements of the object. You concur that it's again 3 meters long, artificial. It's obviously as I say, it's a device of some sort, but you can't get any read. It certainly seems. Obviously, logic would suggest being that small, it probably could only, certainly if it was a humanoid pilot, it could probably only hold one person, possibly. But you're not getting any life signs from it. Cmdr, however, obviously has succeeded pretty well. So she says, no, Captain, there's no evidence of any life signs aboard, certainly none that our systems are capable of recognizing. I would again postulate that it is an artificial probe or like a remote probe of some sort. As by the way, as she's doing this, so she's again looking in her little hooded viewer thing, and I wish I'd got that sound effect, because I love that sort of scanning sound effect, but I haven't got it to hand, so I'm not going to waste time looking for it. But anyway, she sort of bent into her sensor hood, sort of looking at it and trying to understand how you're able to miss it. Meanwhile, you feel there's like a very low rumbling in the ship. You can sort of feel it. All of you can sort of suddenly feel this kind of low. You feel it rather than hear it, but there's this kind of vibration. And the captain says, "Does anyone else feel that?" And she says, "Lieutenant," talking to Cmdr, "Lieutenant, are you picking anything up from the anomaly?" She says, "Well, the anomaly's output hasn't changed, Captain, but I definitely am detecting some sort of structural interference." And at that point, she gets a hail from the engineering department. So Commander Reiter comes on the line, and he says, "I don't know what the hell you're doing up there, but we're having major problems down here. We're detecting disruption of the ship's antimatter containment system. I suggest we back off. It must be something to do with the gravimetric anomaly causing interference, but I recommend we withdraw by another 100,000 kilometers until we have time to diagnose the problem."
So the captain towards the captain to see if I get the nod to do that.
Sure, and she looks at you and just says, just gives you a curt nod. So you basically begin to back off, and obviously, as you do so, you keep the object centered on the view screen, so you keep the magnification up, but the ship backs away another 100,000 kilometers or so, and as you do so, you can feel the vibrations begin to subside, and Verret comes on the systems again, and says, "Yes, thank you, Captain. The containment system is stabilizing. Give me a few minutes while I look in to see whether we can do anything to protect our systems from its effect. We'll need to do. I recommend we don't approach the anomaly any closer until we've had time to work out some sort of a method to protect ourselves. I can't guarantee that if we proceed any closer, we won't suffer further failures in our major systems." And the captain, captain obviously, agrees with that. And so the ship has pulled back, and you're all kind of waiting and watching. So the science department are doing their thing with the sensors, and they're running scans of the anomaly, and you're also trying to get more information on this probe itself.
Has it stayed where it was? Did it follow us?
Yeah, the probe stays exactly where it was. It's made no effort to follow you. It literally is paying you no attention at all, as far as you can tell. There's no evidence from your sensors or from your tactical scans that there's any indication that it even knows you're there. So there's no evidence that it scanned you. There's no evidence that
is it stationary or is it orbiting that I'm not sure what the bright light is that we can see. Is that a representation of the
that's
anomaly?
meant to be the anomaly itself, yeah. And yes, it's basically, I've just realised that probe really does look like a UFO from the old Jerry Anderson TV show. That wasn't. It's very hard to find an image of an alien probe. If you zoom in on it, you can see it's like a spherical object. But anyway, it's not meant to look like a UFO from the TV series. But anyway,
I was thinking it looks like the fighter's navigator ship from the back.
It does a bit as well. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I can see that as well. Yeah.
I'm playing.
Damn it! You've seen through my cunning plan. Basically, it seems to be stationary, and again, it's quite impressive. Again, it seems to be unaffected by the issues that the Lexington is suffering. It just sitting there, and it seems to be just scanning. It seems to be just watching this anomaly. You get nothing. You're not getting anything from it. Certainly, your initial scans haven't given you anything. There's no evidence. It's looked at you. You assume it is scanning the anomaly because that would seem to be the reason it would be sitting there. But again, initially, you can't. There's no evidence of that at this point.
So we can't detect any data transmitting either from it or to it?
At this point, no. However,
no.
There's certainly no reason why. You couldn't do some more investigation of that, because again, one would assume it is doing something. Otherwise, why is it sitting there? So how would you like to proceed with doing that? So you can. You're the first officer, so you can pretty much order anybody on this ship to do whatever you like. So,
I'd like to check out somebody to check our records and see if there is any record of a similar, visually similar probe having been encountered anywhere so far.
Absolutely, you can do that.
Also, are we able? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to say, are we able to try and transmit a message to it and see if it responds in any way?
I like that plan. I like a plan which involves, reaching out to new life forms and new civilizations, because that, after all, is what you are here to do. So I think that's a great idea. So yes, you can certainly do that as well. Absolutely. So why don't we deal with those two we'll deal with those two things first of all. So, right. So you order somebody down in ship's records to as you say, to do a search. Say a Google search. We'll call it a Majel search, because Majel Barrett Roddenberry was the voice of the computer, wasn't she? So it's not a Google search; it's a Majel search. So you get somebody on the bridge, goes off and looks into a terminal and starts scanning through. Of course, in the original series, it was all like microfilm, wasn't it? So when they scan anything, it looks like microfiche kind of swishing across the screen. But anyway, so somebody's off doing that, and they go off, and that's going to keep them busy for a few minutes to they're kind of asking the computer to run comparisons with the visual image and so on and so on. And you can hear you can hear the computer working in the background, and someone's doing that. So as far as the communication goes, right? So you turn to the communications officer. We haven't picked a communications officer. I don't think it's that important. But who Alex? Why don't you? Who would you pick? Somebody? Who would you like to be the communications officer? Have you got a particular race, a species, or a race that you like, or?
Maybe Vulcan. Someone like
Sure.
Spock style, maybe.
Why don't we do that? So we'll have a Vulcan, and should we have what do you want, male or a female?
Let's have a male.
Okay, so that means his name's got to begin with an S. So I don't know. We'll come up with a name for him, but let's call him. I'm going to call him Stoll. Stoll. How does that fit for you?
Yeah, works fine for me.
So we go. Okay, so the captain turns to Lieutenant Stoll, who has mysteriously puffed into existence at the communication station. He looks slightly confused for a moment, but then he turns to his console, and the captain says, "Lieutenant Stoll, I want you to direct a message to the probe, all languages and all frequencies. Keep transmitting until I tell you to stop." So the Vulcan turns to his console and puts a few computer carts into the panel, and you can hear just very quietly, you can hear a message. This is the USS Lexington. We are representatives of the United Federation of Planets. We come in peace. We are on a mission of peaceful exploration. Please communicate with us. And this message just repeats, and it's broadcast in all of the known languages that the Federation has in its database, and this will continue to transmit. After a minute or two, the lieutenant looks back at the captain and says, "No response, Captain. I've got nothing to indicate that they are even receiving the message. However, I will continue to transmit." And the captain says, "Very, very good." And then, meanwhile, your admin person has sort of walks over to your chair. Says, "Commander, I've run a full analysis of Starfleet records, and there is no known probe that's been encountered by any Starfleet vessel that matches the configuration of this device. But I'll continue looking. But my initial investigation hasn't found anything to match it."
Okay.
So,
would we be able to send a probe of our own over to it? Presumably, it could get closer.
Excellent idea. Yes, we can do that. So the Constitution class carries a load of probes. I explain this stuff because I'm not quite sure how much Star Trek knowledge Alex has. I know you, Sarah Jane, you know a bit, pretty knowledgeable, but
I don't know an amazing amount.
So I forgive me if I tell you stuff you already know, but I think it's good to remind everybody of how this stuff works. So the Federation, Federation starships have probes. What they do is they use the same, basically they use the same casing as the photon torpedo. It's like a long container. And what they do with the probe is it's simply packed full of sensors rather than antimatter explosives. So they're able to have a lot of these probes they can use. And so, you say to the captain, I recommend we launch a remote probe to see if we can pick up anything from the device without risking the ship. And the captain says, excellent idea, Commander, take care of it. So you go off to your, you enter a few commands on your panel, and somewhere down in the depths of the saucer section, there'll be an engineering technician is like pulling a probe casing off the rack, and is fitting it with sensor suite. They launch it or put it into the torpedo launcher, and then you get a notification on your panel telling you that the probe is ready. So you turn to the captain and say permission to launch, and she says proceed. And you press a button, and basically this probe is launched from the torpedo launcher. So on the view screen, you see a kind of track of light shoot away towards the probe, and it kind of you'll set your sensors track it as it proceeds, and it proceeds towards the alien probe. And as it gets closer, however, you get some readings from it telling you that it seems to be experiencing similar issues to the ship. Some of its systems are beginning to get disrupted. Obviously, this probe doesn't have a warp, like a warp engine or whatever.
That's what I was counting on.
Yeah, but you see that it's definitely having some problems, and it kind of you begin to lose. The transmissions from it become spotty and intermittent, and you're kind of going, oh yes, sir, Captain. It's definitely having an effect on the probe. I've ordered the probe to hold position. It's approximately, 5,000 meters from the alien device. I'll keep relaying telemetry for now, and so that continues. And again, you're seeing seeing readouts come through on your device. Okay, so as you are, so you continue on like this for a little while. I'm just going to ping message to Mike and see what he's up to, because he seems to still be on Discord. Mike, I don't know if you can hear me, but
I don't want him to miss out.
But he's not on Roll20, and as I say, he seems to be in Discord, but
He hasn't sent a WhatsApp or anything, has he?
No, I don't think so. I've got WhatsApp open on my phone. And according to my thing, he's in Discord, but I can't hear him. And as I say, he might very well be. He might, but he's not. I don't know. Anyway, okay, we'll carry on. Okay, so
if you prefer, I don't mind. I know we didn't want to miss this evening, but if you'd rather wait until there are more of us.
No. Let's carry on. Let's carry on. To be honest with you,
maybe the probe got to his head.
Yeah, maybe
been taken out by the probe.
I mean, basically, this is what we call a mission brief in Star Trek Adventures. These are mission briefs, which are shorter. I mean, they're like kind of a one-page thing. So this is quite a short encounter. So to be honest, I think we'll play through this as it is. If he's able to join us back in, fantastic. If not, this won't keep us going until 10 o'clock. I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll get through this, and then he'll be able to join us back for the next. As I say, I'm assuming he's having technical problems. I'm just a bit puzzled by why he still seems to be in Discord, but not on Roll20. But anyway, I'm sure he's doing his best to join us back as soon as he can. But no, we'll carry on. We're good. Okay, so this proceeds on. This situation then proceeds on for a little while. So montage sequence on the bridge as people are wondering about pushing buttons on things and on this. Yeah, exactly. On the display, the probe is still sitting there, and Commander Verrett is still struggling to rig up to be able to block the effects of the anomaly. And you seem to be at a bit of an impasse at the moment. So the ship is not in danger. Your probe is not really sitting there, but it's not really doing much. Sorry, was someone going to say something? I thought, did I just interrupt you there, Sarah Jane? Sorry.
No, sorry, no, I didn't make. I don't think I made a noise.
Okay. The science officer after a little while, science officer comes over to the captain, Lieutenant T'Pren. She comes over to the captain and she says, "Captain, I have a suggestion. Might it be possible to send a team out in thruster suits? I believe we will be able to shield the propulsion system of the thruster suits more successfully than we can with the ship's antimatter systems, and they would hopefully be able to get to reach the probe and effect similar repairs to allow it to continue its scans of the device uninterrupted. I've run an analysis simulation on my systems, and I estimate a 96% likelihood that this would be safe to attempt." And so the captain calls you over and she says, "What do you think, Commander?"
I think it's important that we work out what this probe is before we carry on. So, yep, I'm happy to do it.
Agreed. Okay.
I mean, humans have an absolutely rubbish track record of assessing risk, so let's do it.
Let's just do
Sorry, what are we doing? I sort of lost track.
it. Right. So the science officer has proposed that she said that you send out a small team in environment like spacesuits with thruster packs, because again in Star Trek, they tend to use thruster packs, which it basically allows you to zip about in space like it's like you're like a little one-man spaceship.
Yeah.
She is her reasoning is that because the thruster packs basically are much more simple technology, so they're not warp, they're not antimatter engines, they're thruster packs. So she reckons that she'll be able to, or the engineers will be able to shield the thruster pack from the effects of the gravitic anomaly, which means it will be safe for the personnel to go out in the ship and to use the thruster packs. And she's saying that if you can get to the probe, as in your probe, not the alien probe, but the probe that you launched, you'll be able to implement some modifications to the probe, which will then allow it to function properly, which then means you can get proper readings on the alien device. And it means, therefore, that you're not risking the whole ship. It is a slight risk for the 2 or 3 people that you send. However, it is a she reckons there's like a 96% safety margin that it should be fine. So that seems like a pretty reasonable
all right,
safety level. So basically, you organise a small team to do this. I'm not going to expect that you're going to send. I mean, so did you say you were going to go, Commander Reiter? Are you going to go yourself?
I'll go myself. Yep.
So, Alex, why don't we get you to you're going to take on the role of an engineer.
Okay.
Because again, with Star Trek Adventures, and I know this is technically not Star Trek Adventures, but in this game and in this setting, it's perfectly good and acceptable to just use different characters, because there are some situations that are not suitable for everybody. So the Doctor is not going to go in a spacesuit and go out into space to go and do this. That's not at all what the Doctor would do. However, what we're going to do is we're going to get you to take on the role of Lieutenant Commander Verrett, which is Kevin's character. I've got his character sheet here, so don't worry about that. But basically, Lieutenant Commander Verrett, he's an Andorian. So the Andorians are the blue-skinned guys with the antenna, which means you get to wear a funky spacesuit with antenna bits on the top. And because he's the chief engineer, he's the obvious choice to go and make these repairs to the probe. And the science officer also offers you up. Offers you up. That's probably a bad choice of words, isn't it? The science officer also details one of her junior officers, Lieutenant Kerrin, strangely enough, another female Vulcan, to go and to assist you to basically make modifications to the probe, to the Federation probe sensors. So she recommends, they recommend a team of 3, which is yourself and, as I say, chief engineer, and then this science officer to go and do the work. It may or may not be telling that the chief science officer hasn't volunteered to go herself, but I'll leave that up to you to decide.
Okay.
So the 3 of you then, so basically the 3 of you meet up in the one of the airlocks on the bottom section of the saucer section, and you put on your thruster suits, which are form-fitting. They're not like big bulky NASA spacesuits. These are kind of quite well tailored outfits with a large helmet, so you've got plenty of visibility. And then you strap on the thruster packs, which you wear like a backpack, and it basically has a couple of armrests which like flick up, which you can use to control the thruster pack. And again, you have a couple of crew members helping you with this, and they kind of get you all suited up and kitted out. And after a few minutes, you're ready to disembark. So you head for the airlock and step inside and do a few last-minute checks, and then after a minute or so, the outer hatch opens and you basically step out into space. So,
Okay.
and again, this essentially is what you are seeing, as you can see on the screen here. Obviously, you're just outside. Just give me 1 second, guys. Just bear with me. Just going to pause for 1 sec.
We need some like elevator music to be playing right now.
I think so.
I would play some, but it would probably get copyrighted, so I won't.
Right, stop talking about me. I'm back. Okay. Right. So, okay. So you're all outside the ship, and cue dramatic special effects as you kind of, and your little spacesuit's going to go zipping away from the ship, and as you get, so you proceed to cross the distance, and this is you've got a fair distance to go, but again, these thruster packs push you along a nifty little speed. And again, this is hard for me to describe. Very impressive. Obviously, what you're seeing is, you're out in space, and there's this monstrous, natural phenomenon happening. You're literally looking at it. You're not feeling any particular effects. Again, the modifications made to the thruster pack seem to be working, and your systems in your suits are all perfectly operating. And you proceed in staged increments, right? So you don't just go, shooting straight for the thing. You kind of proceed at, you go like a few 100,000 kilometers or whatever, and then you kind of stop and run system checks to make, and the engineer of Reiter, you kind of check everybody's suits to make sure everything's okay. So it takes you about half an hour to let's call it an hour, actually. That's because it's quite a distance. It takes about an hour for you to get near to the probe. So as you get nearer to the probe, to your probe, so the Federation probe is as I say, it's like a black cylindrical pod, and you can see it. You can see it on your little sensors on your suits, and you're close enough to it that you can actually see it. In your view, you can see the kind of light from the this anomaly is kind of glinting off the object, and in the distance behind it, you can see this alien probe. And again, if you're in Roll20, you can zoom in on that page to get a better look at it. If you just zoom in on that image, you'll see that it's this kind of cylindrical, spherical probe object. And it seems kind of benign. It's sitting there, and again, you don't get any sort of sense of threat from it necessarily. It's just sitting there doing its thing. So you now manage to get to the probe itself. So Verrett, as the chief engineer, I'm going to get you to make a roll to see whether you can do something with the probe. So I'm just having a look at Kevin's character sheet. So I think.
God, you're going to have to tell me how to roll again. I'll forget how to use
That's
this.
not a problem. It's not a problem. It's all good. It is all good. All you need to do is, I reckon, if you go to, let's say, what would be good? Right. So on the Roll20 window, on the far left, you've got a menu bar down the side. At the top, you've got 3 lines. And if you look at the bottom of that row of icons, there is a dice. And if you click on that dice, it brings up a dice roller. So on the dice roller's got different dice designation down the left-hand side. So all you need to do is click on the D100, click it once, and that should then roll a D100 for you. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Yes, that worked, and I've got that. And
Nice.
you've managed to make it. So you're using your mechanical engineering skill, and so basically, as Reiter and Lieutenant what did I say her name? I can't believe I've just forgotten her name already. Honestly, ridiculous. Brain like a sieve. Lieutenant Kerrin, who's the Vulcan science officer who's with you. So whilst you are, the two of you are sort of floating there, kind of looking on in awe at what's going on. Verret has pulled open the side panel of the probe and spends a few minutes tinkering around in there. And after that period, although obviously you can't hear it because you're in space, the probe systems begin to stabilize, and he's looking at his tricorder, and he says, "Oh, that's got it." You can see on your tricorder that it's beginning to operate, and it's beginning to pull in data from the alien probe. You've managed to basically block out the interference from the gravimetric anomaly, and Lieutenant Kerrin acknowledges that. She says, "Oh, I concur, Commander. My tricorder is indicating that we are indeed picking up new telemetry from the probe. I'm going to use with your permission, I'm going to use the probe sensors to run a close proximity scan on the alien device. At this range, it should be we should be able to do so without being affected by the anomaly itself. And obviously, the probe sensors are far more powerful than my tricorder. So I presume both of you are okay with that."
Yeah. Sorry, what are we doing? Taking a scan?
She's going to use the alien. She's going to use the Federation probe. She's going to basically tap into the probe's sensors and get it to run a scan of the alien device, because the probe sensors are much more powerful than your tricorder device, which she's carrying.
Yeah. Okay.
So she once you acknowledge, she kind of, again, because you've got this Verret, you've got the side panel open. She kind of uses the panel that's built into the probe, and so she starts. Running a scan. And
can I just, before she actually starts the scan, can I just communicate with the ship and make sure that they've got a lock onto us just in case? I need
excellent idea. So okay, you say, this is Reiter to Lexington. This is more. Go ahead. We're picking you up. Signal strength is about 90%. We can hear you. We can hear you fine. What's your situation?
And I'll just explain what Verret's planning to do.
Yep.
And ask them to make sure that they keep a lock on us in case we need a quick evacuation.
Very good. She goes, stand by. She says, okay, and you can hear in the background, she says, transporter room 1. This is the captain. Please confirm transporter lock on the away team. So she comes back and says, confirmed. We've got a lock on you, Commander. So proceed at your discretion. So you give the nod to Lieutenant Kerrin. I will remember that name at some point. And so she starts fiddling around with the device, and you can see on the panel in front of her, there's kind of data's coming in, and she says, although you can't see it through her space helmet, you can almost feel her eyebrows kind of raise. Which is a very Vulcan thing to do, but although you can't see it, you can kind of get that impression from her. And she says, "Fascinating, Commander. I have picked up what appears to be a transmission from the alien probe, which is actually directed to the heart of the anomaly. It's on a wavelength that our sensors wouldn't normally be able to detect. It's only due to our proximity to the device that I'm able to detect it at all." She goes, I'm sending the modulation to Lexington for them to confirm with the ship's sensors, with your permission. So assuming you don't have an issue with that, you hear her on the communications. This is Kerrin. Please modulate ship sensors to 3578.2. Make up some number. And she waits for a moment, and then the ship come back to confirm, and they say, confirmed, yes, we're picking up the same transmission. Any speculation as to what it might be, and if any of you might have any ideas, all they can tell you is that there is it's like a beam of highly focused energy, but it seems to be a transmission, a signal of some kind that is being directed directly into this anomaly, and it's originating from the probe. And obviously there's no visible sign of that. You can't see a beam or anything. As I say, it's only because she's managed to mess with the sensors a bit to pick up this particular frequency.
My two theories are either that the probe is possibly, the anomaly is a way that the probe is maybe communicating, so it's transmitting data through it, almost like a wormhole sort of thing going on.
That's certainly very possible.
Or perhaps the probe isn't actually a probe, and it's creating the anomaly in some way. Is it possible for us to put something between the probe, or to the sort of fling
interrupt the beam, you mean?
Yeah, interrupt the beam and see what happens.
I guess so. You could. I guess options are you could use the probe. You could use your probe to do that, because the probe is obviously it's a mechanism. It's got a power. It's got an engine essentially. So you can certainly use the probe to do that, or you could also have the Lexington maybe launch another probe and put it in the direct path of the beam. I guess those sort of.
I think
you probably don't want to get someone to get in between it. Yeah, okay.
But I'd like us to get back to the ship first.
Okay, no, that's probably very sensible. Okay, so you report back to Captain Moore. So she says, "Okay, yeah, I concur. Have your away team report back to the ship. Once back on board, we'll initiate another probe launch, and we'll try and put it in between the beam and the anomaly to see what effect, if any, that has." Hold on, is that? Oh no, not Mike. Okay, so right, so you begin to make preparations. Again, you're some distance away from the ship, but that again, you've got life support's not a problem. Those suits will keep you alive for like 24 hours or something, so that's no issue. So you're preparing to leave. So Lieutenant Kerrin says, "Commander, I'm just going to, with your permission, I'm just going to set the probe to run, to continue running automated scans just in our absence. Obviously, we can, depending on whether we use this probe to interrupt the beam or whether we launch another probe, but hopefully this will allow it to continue taking meaningful readings whilst we traverse back to the Lexington."
Yep, absolutely.
Okay with that? All right.
Yep,
so she starts. Like I say, she's effectively setting a timer or something. She's getting it to run scans. As she's doing that, however, you suddenly notice that the alien probe seems to react. You see that the probe actually begins to turn towards you. Now, this is quite worrying because this thing has not reacted at all up till now. But as you're watching, you literally see this thing, and your communicator pings and says, "Lexington to away team. Are you seeing this? From our perspective, it seems as if the probe is actually turning to face you. Recommend that you proceed. You head back this way, and we'll beam you back aboard immediately."
Yes, please.
Right. So you start initiating your thruster packs, and as you the three of you then begin to head back to the ship. So again, you've got these little thruster packs on your back, and you're kind of chugging away. And as you can't really see from your perspective, obviously, because you're heading away from it. But on the Lexington screen, the probe is now facing you. And as you are departing, a beam suddenly lances out from the probe, and it captures the Lexington probe in its in the beam, and the probe begins to be pulled towards the alien device. However, as well as the probe, also Lieutenant Turin seems to have been captured by this beam. So she reports, Commander, I'm afraid to report that my motion has been impeded and I appear to be being drawn towards the alien device. I am attempting to initiate an emergency thruster burn to break the pull, and you can hear her, she's not panicking because Vulcans don't panic, but she's operating her device, her thruster pack to try and overload it.
I'm going to ask the ship, can they beam her out of there?
Lexington, this is Lexington. Stand by, Captain. This is more to transporter room 1. Emergency beam out of the away team right now. And as you stand, so you're in your thruster pack's like burning you away from the probe at like high speed. But next thing you know, you're you feel the transporter beam grab you, and within microseconds you kind of reform on the transporter pad and smack into the opposite wall because you're no you don't. No, the transporter
room on fire.
Exactly, you've got rocket fuel coming out the back. No, they're able to they sort of deactivate the there'll be safety protocol. So you basically appear on the transporter pad, obviously still clad in your spacesuits. However, as you turn around, you realise that it's only the two of you. It's only Verrett, yourself and Verrett, and Turin is not there. So obviously you're one of the there's a couple of transporter technicians kind of run up onto the platform and start helping you down, because obviously these suits, now that you're back in gravity, are quite unwieldy. So they kind of take the thruster packs off the back, start taking the helmets off, and you kind of run for the transporter panel and say, Bridge, this is transporter room 1. Lieutenant Turin has not come aboard with us. And Captain says, we are aware, Commander, report to the bridge immediately. And she just cuts the line. So a couple of minutes pass as you get the rest of your all the gauntlets and stuff off, but obviously you're still in your spacesuits, and you head for the bridge, jump into a turbo lift and head up to the bridge. And I'm going to assume Verrett kind of disappears off to engineering, and Alex, you're back in the body of the doctor now. You were in sick bay with your team, so there's a weird there's a weird multiverse moment where you're in two characters at once in the same room. So, and you give each other a knowing nod as you pass, and then consciousness goes from Verrett leaves, and you go back into the body of the chief medical officer, and you basically accompany Commander Reiter to the bridge, and you both sort of ride the turbo lift up in silence. And as you come out onto the bridge, you can see on the display screen that the probe is still there, and it seems to have turned back to the anomaly, and however, there is no obvious sign of Lieutenant Turin or the Lexington probe. And as you come onto the bridge, the captain turns around and he says, "I'm sorry to report that both Lieutenant Turin and our probe have disappeared. Our sensors simply recorded that they were caught in some kind of an energy beam from the alien device, and then they simply disappeared. There's no trace of them. I'm preparing to move the ship in closer to carry out further investigation, Commander. So please have all departments prepare for turbulence, as we may encounter problems as we get closer. Helm, and she because there's a temporary helms person at the helm console, obviously because you were away. Helm, take us in slowly." As you watch, however, the alien probe on the screen suddenly just disappears. It just literally vanishes from the screen. and she goes, "Science, what the hell's going on?" And she, the science officer, kind of again is looking into her little reader. She goes, "It's not. There's no sign of it at all. It's not anywhere in the system that our sensors can determine, Captain. It just simply vanished." And the anomaly continues. So the anomaly is still there. There's no. The anomaly hasn't vanished. It's still there. However, the probe has simply disappeared. So the Lexington moves in closer, and you carry out extensive, as safely as you can. You scan the entire region, but there is simply no trace to be found of Lieutenant Kerrin or the probe or the alien device. And after 24 hours of investigation and searching, the captain reluctantly has to announce to the crew that Lieutenant Kerrin is missing, presumed lost. And obviously everyone aboard is pretty devastated by this, and Captain Moore in particular is unhappy, given the nature of why you were in this system in the first place. And she tells you that she's reported to Admiral Stoker, and Admiral Stoker simply orders Lexington to remain on site for the time being, and further orders will follow. And that is go.
Sorry, go on.
No, go for it.
I was going to say that I feel that it's my fault because I was the senior officer on the away mission, and she shouldn't have been at the back. It should have been me. So I'd like to sort of carry on looking into the anomaly, but sort of with renewed vigor, because I just can't let it go now.
That's great, and I think that's if we were using Star Trek Adventures, then this would be a situation where you would probably change one of your values. So in Star Trek Adventures, as you know, the characters have values, which are kind of traits which define your outlook. So this would be a situation where in Star Trek Adventures, again, you would probably at this point go, do you know what, I'm going to change one of my values, and I'm going to take on the value, never leave a crew member behind, or something like that, which would reflect how events change your perspective and change your perception. And I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, I would imagine that not only is a Commander Reiter kind of as you say, feeling, and I don't think there's no guilt really there for him to feel, but he's a first officer and he would feel the loss, particularly keenly because he was right there. And also would probably feel some level of anger towards Admiral Stoker as well, because again, as with the captain, this was a death that did not need to happen.
Yeah.
Because this officer would not have been in that situation if you'd not been ordered on this mission. And interestingly, also Lieutenant T'Pren also is feeling the loss, although of course she will not show it. However, those of you who know her will realise that there is, she's also affected by this this loss, because again, it could conceivably have been her in that position. She ordered Lieutenant Kerrin to go on this away mission, and so as such also has some responsibility for this. But so I think it's fair to say that the Lexington for the next little while at least is a very unhappy ship, at least in the short term. And again, we will deal with more to do with this in the next episode, which will be like a proper full length. So that'll probably be a two session adventure called Punishment and Crime, which we will be tackling in 3 weeks' time. But for now, as I say, this was only ever meant to be a short interlude piece, and reasons will become clear as to why it was important for me to run this episode. Actually, this was the whole reason. This little episode was actually the whole reason that I decided to run these sessions back in the old timeline. That was the first thought. then we decided to do the 2 so that you get to play the whole of the 10-part campaign. But again, reasons will become clear why this particular incident is important moving forward. But anyway, I hope that was at least
someone supposed
somewhat
to end up dead.
I beg your pardon?
Was someone supposed to end up dead?
I'm not going to say anything on that.
Okay, all right.
But rest assured, all will become clear. But let's just say again, thanks again for doing that. I know it's only a shorter one tonight. I mean, it is still what is it now? 10:20. So it's not, we're not miles off. But I think again, given the fact that Mike unfortunately had to drop out and that we were missing 2 others, but I think that was perfect. And again, I think you both did some great stuff there. Some really good suggestions which fitted right in with what the scenario is suggesting. So thanks as always for your for your great ideas and great role playing. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much for entertaining us for the evening.
Yeah,
right. It's my pleasure. Again, it's again, I wish I could do something about the temperature, but not much I can do about that. But as I say, next time around, I think next time we will definitely be back to full strength. I know that hopefully Kerrin will be around, and I know that obviously Kevin will be back from his holidays, and hopefully Mike will have tossed his laptop out and bought a new one or done something. But anyway, in the meantime, then we will hopefully I'll hopefully bump into you then at the Comic-Con. So that's just to remind you, 24th at the K2, and as I say, I'm going to be there. I'll be up there for probably a good 2 or 3 hours. So I'm sure I'll bump into you if you're up there.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for you.
Great stuff. And in the meantime, thanks again, and I wish you a good evening, and I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you.
See
you later.
See you soon.
All the best. See you.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to this episode of Starship Vigilant. Kaz was played by Mike. David Osterhagen was played by Kevin. Kolish was played by Kerrin. Our music is Fanfare for Space by Kevin MacLeod, which is licensed under a Creative Commons license. See you next time.